this moment on, America's decline is over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Like It or Not. It is the week of January 20th, and this week, not only are we celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but we also inaugurated Donald Trump for a second time. Number 45 is now number 47, and it has been a week. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to go ahead and add chapters, so you can go ahead and jump through to some of the areas that you find more significant. And I would love to hear what you think down in the comments. Please go ahead, like and subscribe. Remember, I'm going to be doing a weekend review every single week, and I'd love to be able to cover those topics that you find interesting. Thank you again. Thank you for joining. Let's jump right into it. All right, first thing I'm going to go ahead and jump into is our inauguration speech. Honestly, y'all, I think it was a kind of refreshing departure from some of Donald Trump's usual speeches. I do feel that there was a message of unity about as much as he's able to do. The reality is that, Donald Trump campaigned on a lot of gripes about the way that the country has been run under the Biden administration. And while I don't agree with every single thing that he said, I can definitely tell you that I was beyond disappointed in Joe Biden. I wasn't surprised that he was a lackluster president. I was actually just confirmed in what I've always thought about him. But it was really sad to watch a president decline more right in front of our eyes. It was disgusting to watch our media cover it up. So I can understand the frustration. I can understand why Donald Trump had a historic victory. And quite honestly, I really hope that they do not disappoint us, because the majority of Americans voted for them. And quite honestly, we need things to get back to working for the people and not just for the few. So, inauguration speech highlights. I loved seeing our president call for no more involvement in foreign wars. Democrats, Republicans, rhinos, institutional government officials, all of you. I know you're big mad. I know you're upset that you're not going to be able to line your pockets by starting wars and getting involved in other countries' disputes. But you know what? America needs to go back to isolationist. We need to fix the issues in this country, and we need to stop stretching ourselves so thin. Thank you, Mr. President. Trump also announced that we would cease foreign funding for the first 90 days, pending an internal review. Listen, y'all, we don't need to be sending money anywhere if it's not absolutely necessary. Again, we are spending so much money overseas, and we are not reinvesting it within this country. And that is our money, our taxpayer dollars. We are going to go back to drilling within the United States. Again, this goes to not being involved in foreign countries and their issues. If we are reliant in foreign entities for our energy, how are we going to maintain ourselves when there's conflict? Actually, historically, we start conflict sometimes. We need to stop doing that. If we're going to be reliant on oil and gas, we need to drill within the United States. Donald Trump announced reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy. I'm in full support of this. I think that if Mexico doesn't get hit where it hurts, they're never going to feel the impact of this mass migration that they've allowed to go through their country. And again, remember, the people coming into the southern border are not just Mexican. You have people from all over the world, all of Latin America. You have people coming in from China through the southern border, which is kind of crazy. India. So yes, obviously the Caribbean and other countries as well. But this is historic levels of immigration and historic levels of immigration from other countries. If Mexico is not forced to take care of these people while they're waiting to come into the United States, what obligation do they have to securing their actual borders? So no, remain in Mexico, hit them where it hurts, and hopefully, Mexico, you will do your job like any sovereign nation does. Secure your borders. We are also now going to be designating the drug cartels in Mexico as terrorist organizations. This is an interesting one. By designating them as terrorist organizations, we can actually send our own troops into Mexico. Now, I don't relish a conflict with Mexico. To me, I'm very close to that issue. However, what the Mexican drug cartels do to their own people is absolutely disgusting. It is cruel. And if Mexico refuses, another issue that they refuse to do the basic jobs of a government, then you know what? Yes, they are a terrorist organization. They terrorize their people. Just this week, there was another mass burial of 33 bodies. You have over 500,000 women missing in Mexico since 2000. Where are they? Why is this government not doing what they are supposed to do to protect their citizens? It almost feels as if they want them to leave Mexico. Why? Because they leave their own country, they come to the United States or other countries around the world, they work, work, they send the money back into Mexico, and there's a whole new revenue stream for this country that they don't even have to provide the basic necessities for their citizens. So no, shame on you, Mexico. I'm so sorry to say that. But yes, your cartels are a terrorist organization. And thank you, Donald Trump, because I'm hoping to God, I'm hoping that in my lifetime we can remedy the issue that is in Mexico so that the Mexican people can thrive and prosper and enjoy the beauty of their country and the beauty of their culture. We've also stated that we would be reasserting control over the Panama Canal. Yo, I don't relish any kind of violence in Latin America. It is unfortunate that there seems to be a conflict between the United States and Panama. Panama has always been an ally to us. As you know, well, as many of you know, we gave control back of the Panama Canal in 1999 after building it. The French initially attempted to, but after losing so many people to injury and disease, they gave up. The United States stepped in. In 1999, we gave control back to Panama. However, President Trump has claimed that we will be taking back over the canal. I don't see how that's going to happen without violence, and I really hope that we can work out a deal. And also, you're the man that wrote the art of the deal, right? So hopefully we can get that done. One of the things that we should remember about Latin America is that the United States has, for the most part, treated Latin America like it was irrelevant. And when you do that and you put trade agreements in place that take advantage of an already impoverished region, you have countries like China that see that power vacuum and they step in and they pretend to be an ally by providing key funding, but it's tied into utilities. While Panama states that they're not allowing the Chinese to get better deals on passage through the canal, what they're actually doing is they're taking loans from the Chinese government to build up their infrastructure. Now, you're building an alliance with arguably the United States' biggest enemy, and you are our southern neighbor. I don't see how that's going to end well. And you'll see me say this a lot, I'm close to the issue, everybody. I am Latina. Now, 20% of the United States population is from Latin America. It only benefits us to have a good relationship. Our population is only going to keep growing in the US. So if we can have an actual collaborative relationship with Latin America, it's only going to benefit us all in the long run. So that's kind of my coverage on his inauguration speech. I personally have a lot of high hopes for Trump's presidency. I think that I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm a realist at the end of the day. I like to think I'm fair and balanced. I do have my biases in certain directions, but I like to see things from all sides, and I want to approach things with a common sense mindset. I think Trump learned a lot from his first term. I think he's articulated that very well. And I'm really hoping that his cabinet picks do the right thing for America. I hope that if they're not, that he fires them immediately. Don't be a Biden. Don't keep everybody on staff for 4 years doing absolutely nothing. Please put America first, Mr. President. Please put your ego at the door. Please do the right thing. Remember, a lot of you and your cabinet are already wealthy. The American people want to believe in the American dream. Not everybody just follows that ideology. Some people have really lost hope. This is such an opportunity for you to win an entire generation of voters. Do the right thing. My final two that I would add on this is that I was really pleased to see the transparency with the press that you saw on day one, right? He was signing bills, signing executive orders in the Oval Office. He was talking to reporters. He was joking around, but it was a level of openness that we didn't see during Biden. I mean, we obviously know now that they were hiding Biden's cognitive decline. Most of us who were paying attention could see it. I really hope that we continue speaking to the press, and I hope that alternative media is also allowed to speak with the president and not just, our mainstream media to the left and the few mainstream on the right, because quite honestly, both sides are so biased, and we really do deserve an independent point of view. Or channels like myself are going to continue to grow because we're giving a perspective from both sides. The first round of executive orders that Trump has announced was to reinstate military members who were let go due to refusal to take the COVID-19 vaccine. I think that this is an amazing call. Thank you so much. They should have never lost their job to begin with. So thank you. Second up was the mass deportation of known criminals that entered the United States illegally. As of today, on the 23rd of January, we already have 300 known criminals that are in deportation inauguration proceedings. Raids have happened in Miami, Boston, Denver, Philadelphia, and they will continue to occur. Now, as for non-criminals, what I can say is don't be with known criminals when ICE shows up. Why? Because they're going to take you too. I'm sorry. Homan has stated already that they are not currently targeting regular, everyday, undocumented migrants. They are going after known criminals, and there are so many that they're going to be busy for a while. I know that we want to house each other, we want to look out for each other, but the reality is, y'all, if you're going to come to the United States, come here to work, to build a life, and to contribute to the betterment of our society. If you're going to come here to commit crimes and be a lowlife, I'm sorry, you can go back home and do that. Because some of us and our families came here to escape your exact behavior. Así que, mi gente, my people, please come here to do the right thing, okay? And if you are harboring somebody who has committed crimes and you think that you're doing an honorable thing, I'm sorry, you're not. And just for the record, I wish that we could deport American-born criminals, but we can't do that because they were born here. So this is not a one-sided view. There's no place in this society for you to be causing terror to other members of the society. We are all living here. We all need to live in peace. And if you're going to be disturbing that, adios. Trump has also pardoned the January 6th rioters. Later in this video, I will talk about the desgraciado Joseph Biden's final pardons. However much I dislike Joe Biden and the pardons that he has done up to the last 20 minutes of his presidency, I cannot condone pardoning the January 6th rioters. I think that the January 6th rioters acted like children, absolute children. Now, the sentences that they were given may have been a little bit excessive to some degree. However, I don't agree with pardoning them. I do believe that what they did was criminal. I do believe what they did was also a disgrace. And I think that they should all be ashamed of themselves. I don't think that for 1 second what the January 6th rioters did was patriotic. I think it embarrassed us. It embarrassed Republicans, it embarrassed conservatives, and it embarrassed all of MAGA that actually are not one hive minds. There's different levels to the fandom that you see in MAGA. But when you get that extreme and you lose all common sense, you're just a danger, period. And you make all of us look bad. And I'm not talking about MAGA, I'm talking about Americans. We are also pushing executive orders to protect women in sports. I don't understand why this would be controversial. You know, the last couple of years, we've seen some massive records by women be broken by trans women. I don't think that that's okay. If you are a biological male and you went through puberty and then you transition as an adult, I do not understand anybody who would justify you competing against biological women, beating their records, and somehow that's something to be proud of. I remember the Marine that, served, transitioned post-service, and then was going ahead and competing against women and breaking all records. You can't justify that to me. So yes, I do hope that we put some executive orders in place to protect women in sports. And honestly, why don't we just have a neutral league that regardless of your sex, you're able to compete with each other? And honestly, that would be the height of competition. I want to see that. But I don't think that it's okay for trans women to be competing against biological women. Trump also signed an executive order affirming that there are only two genders. Do we have nothing else to do? There's two sexes, male, female. Okay. Gender, it's a societal construct. It's a debate that some people will get involved in. I'm not going to do that on my channel. Quite honestly, you have a right to identify as you want. You have a right to be called by whatever pronouns you want to be called by. Y'all, we don't need an executive order affirming that there's only two genders. I'm sorry. We have other things to do. And then just to add on to the ridiculousness of the executive orders that I don't agree with, it's no longer the Gulf of Mexico. It's now the Gulf of America. I'm going to call it the Gulf of Mexico because I'm a little too old to be changing that. And quite honestly, I don't care enough. So next, I've noticed for the last probably 12 years that every single election, people seem to be having meltdowns. And this may have always been the case, but I guess social media just really exacerbated this. So this week, the meltdowns have been endless. I've had to mute numerous people on social media because I love and respect them, but I just cannot respect or agree with some of the wild things that they have said. I've seen people people calling for violence. I've seen people calling flat out disowning their family and friends. I've seen people insulting. I've seen, minorities called every name in the book simply because Donald Trump shouted us out in his inaugural address. What I don't understand is how, after the last 4 years of never-ending bashing of conservatives, now that we saw a landslide victory, and part of it, people just saying, "Thou doth protest too much." You are so busy calling people names, calling conservatives or Republicans stupid, trying to dumb us down, trying to make us feel as though our opinions are not valid because they don't align with yours. You want to take the high ground while you act like children. Grow up. You are embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing everything that you stand for. And quite honestly, I am disgusted that this is continuing. Everybody's getting older, but they're still acting like children. I want to put a little clip real quick of a couple of liberal media meltdowns because, it's always really entertaining. And I just want to continue to say that the left side melting down constantly does not mean that the right side does not. But man, these meltdowns don't stop.
The takeover of the United States by a base mentality of greed and corruption.
And we're about to enter an era of deep fakes and all sorts of misinformation.
I think we do all have to recognize this is tough.
Donors and billionaires who are what are they doing there? And then seamlessly into Javier Milei and other right-wing political leaders from foreign countries, which again is not a normal thing.
It's people who will give him what he wants and allow him to do to the American people, to immigrants whom Jesus loved.
Guys, I have to say, I'm looking at this crowd. I do not see many people of color.
On Martin Luther King Jr. Day,
Donald Trump repurposed for himself manifest destiny, which is one of the most racist concepts in the history of America.
Obviously, Trump is a producer at heart and cares about the visuals and how things look. That's often how he picks some of the people who are going in his cabinet.
It's a little like a cult leader who keeps predicting different days for the end of the world.
Because it's inside and so intimate. You could almost kind of feel a little bit of the cringe there inside.
And ensuring that they are not chilly. They're all there without their coats, without their overcoats on to make sure that they're comfortable. One mustn't allow the super wealthy to be cold.
It's more royal family governance than necessarily American First Lady.
From a popular vote standpoint, it was a relatively close...
Donald Trump is your president. Get over it. 4 years, y'all. 4 years. We survived Biden. We survived a Trump presidency already. We're gonna be okay. I promise you. And if we're not, I'll be the first one to come on and say, uh-oh. Next up, we have the tech billionaire that everybody loves to hate. So this week, during the inauguration, Elon Musk did something that people are saying is very controversial. He apparently gave a Nazi salute. In the video...
Some elections are, important, some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
He states, "I give you all my heart," and he is now being declared a Nazi. Now they're saying, he's part of apartheid and everything like that. You know what, y'all? Elon Musk can't help where he was born, can't help who he was born to. But I will go ahead and just throw up this lovely picture here of Democrats throwing up a Nazi salute because it is a hand gesture, y'all. So we don't cancel them. I mean, Hillary Clinton, I think, is canceled, but we keep seeing her face. Did anybody see how miserable she looked at the inauguration? And Bill Clinton does not look good, but I guess being evil would do that to you, right? So Elon Musk, we want to hate on everything, right? Didn't do a Nazi salute. Okay, this may be controversial, but in honor of Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream. I have a dream that one day we, as American citizens, will actually look into the context of things before we lose our damn minds. That we, as a population, will accept others for having different opinions. And that honestly, the only way that we should really be getting ourselves upset is if somebody commits violence against us or speaks to us in a way that is demeaning. Why? Because you and I do not have to agree, but I will fight for your right to have an opinion. And I think that is important. So I have a dream. I have a dream that we will get our heads out of our behinds and start acting like human beings. Because quite honestly, we are the biggest threat to each other. Not the government, not the police, not other countries. It's the way that we treat each other. I think y'all should listen to Cher.
Snap out of it.
So finally, to move on to my next one, the first firing of the Trump administration, we know there's going to be a lot of them. Vivek Ramaswamy is gone. Now, supposedly he stepped down because he wants to run for the governor of Ohio, but I'm going to assume it's because he was vehemently defending the H-1B visa program, which unfortunately is not America first. I have 10 years working in big tech, and I have worked with some amazing H-1B visa recipients, and I've worked with some people that are absolute geniuses. But y'all, a basic level software engineer, there are so many in the United States. That is not something that we should be importing. We should be giving Americans the first opportunity. We have outsourced so much of our labor. To continue to do that should be criminal. I'm sorry. So put a cap on the amount of people. Stop taking advantage of a system that's in place. All of these tech titans saying, let's go ahead and bring in more people from other countries. No. How about you train your software engineers here? How about you utilize the H-1B visa program for the people that are really that high skilled that can come into the United States and up-level Americans? That would be a great use of the policy. Instead, it's almost a version of indentured servitude. So not only are you taking opportunities away from Americans, but you get to hold this status over people that are in this country that have ties to their home country, and the fear that if something goes wrong, they won't be able to provide for their family and they'll get deported. So you get them to work overtime, you get them to not take vacations, they don't take full advantage of any benefits, and you win in the end as a company. So you know what, Vivek? Goodbye. Trump also announced an extremely controversial executive order to end birthright citizenship. You'll hear me say this on issues that I personally feel that I'm too close to give a response. However, I'll state the facts. The Western world is the only part of the world that allows unconditional birthright. Now, the United States, Mexico, Canada, most of Latin America allows unconditional birthright. That means I can fly into, let's say, Chile. I can fly into Chile pregnant, give birth, and my child is a Chilean citizen. I'm not, but they are. However, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, and a few other countries in the Caribbean do not allow unconditional birthright. There is not one country in Europe that allows unconditional birthright, yet the United States is expected to allow it. It has been very much a part of our country. It's going to be an interesting one. However, on Trump's end, the executive order that he put in place, quite honestly, seems performative. This was a precedent set by the Supreme Court in the 1800s, similar to Roe v. Wade. So we're going to see what happens. It's already been blocked by the courts, and 22 states are suing. I don't think that there's going to be anything coming from it. I think it's something to kind of appease his main fan base. But for me, we'll see what happens here. I would think that this is going to stick. And that's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say if I agree or disagree with birthright citizenship. I just think that it's something that's very rare in the rest of the world, especially in the developed world. Being able to visit the United States from another country, give birth, have an American citizen go home with you, I think that's a very interesting one, especially if you're not staying here and building a life. President Biden, I don't think I'm going to call you that anymore. I think I'm going to call you Joe, because I've never been more ashamed of a president in my life. In Joe Biden's last 20 minutes in office, he pardoned Dr. Fauci, the entire January 6th committee, all of his siblings and their spouses. Joe Biden has to be the most corrupt individual that has ever stepped foot in DC. And my God, that is saying a lot, considering I would say the majority of DC right now is corrupt. But what really makes me question the validity of this is that Joe Biden is not mentally there. How is it that he is allowed to make these decisions? I'm sure the founding fathers never thought that we would have a senile president in office. But to make sweeping pardons from 2014 on, honestly, Hunter Biden's pardon is nothing at this point. We understand a father looking out for his kid over his country. We get that. But everybody, Fauci is one of the people that is the most valid individual to be investigated for his role in COVID-19 and the cover-up of the facts of COVID-19. Shame on you, Joseph Biden. Shame on you. You will literally go down in history as the worst president ever as of right now. I'm sure there's other people out there saying, hold my beer. And I want to wrap up today's week in review with an inspiration. This may not resonate with everybody, but we talk a lot about how the American dream is dead. And I just don't believe that. And this week we saw our first Secretary of State from Latin America sworn in. And not only Marco Rubio from the beautiful state of Florida, I'm super biased, I love Florida. Not only was Marco Rubio sworn in as our Secretary of State, his parents are Cuban, born, and came here during the crisis, but he also spoke in Spanish in his acceptance. So go ahead and check that out. It may seem a little corny, but I teared up at this.
If I may take the liberty for just 15 seconds to say something in Spanish, because I know a lot of people back home would be very proud, and I want to make sure I acknowledge that. Quiero darle las gracias a Dios, a mi familia que no está aquí con nosotros hoy, a mis padres que vinieron en este país en el año 1956, y el propósito de su vida fue que nosotros pudiéramos vivir los sueños que no fueron posibles para ellos. Es un honor increíble ser el secretario de Estado del país más poderoso y más bueno en la historia de toda la humanidad. Y es un gran honor y le doy las gracias al presidente Trump por esta oportunidad. I just said I saved a bunch of money by switching to Geico. That's what I said. So.
And I teared up at this because my parents came here in the 60s and our population was very small at that time. You know, when my mom and dad came to this country, they busted their behinds to make it. And one of the things that I will say is that they always told me that this country was the country that you could come to with nothing and make and get everything. And I believe that. I've seen my own life, I've seen my own mistakes that I've made, and I've seen how I've been able to come out of it and the opportunities available to me. One of the reasons I've always disliked the Democratic Party is that I've never felt like a victim. I've never felt held down, not as a woman, not as a Latina, not as a biracial person. I have always felt that I had opportunity. And while I definitely felt discrimination from individuals, I never felt it from a society. And seeing Marco Rubio go up there, speak Spanish, yes, the joke is hilarious because let's be honest, right? It was beautiful. So to me, that's proof that the American dream very much does still exist. And we now have a Secretary of State with Latin American roots that can hopefully help build strong alliances with our neighbors to the south, because 20% of this country comes from Latin America originally. We need to have a strong relationship with them. We need to build bonds that can make us stronger against the rest of the world. So the American dream is still alive, everybody. I hope everybody has an amazing weekend. I hope that this was informative. Please jump in the comments, share, like. Let me know what you think about today's segment. Let me know, how you feel about the inauguration. Guys, I'll tell you this on every single segment. I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear how you feel. Whether you like what I have to say or not, you are welcome. I will respond to every comment that gets posted. And at the end of the day, remember, we're all on the same ship together. So God bless America. God bless you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.